Oh, yeah.
She said, take this to the elder meeting. No.
Okay, might as well get started. Yes, my name is Glen Kippel. I'm your substitute teacher this morning. And made this meeting come to order. Would anybody care to read the minutes of the last meeting? Oh, wait a second. We're not doing the Robert's Rules of Order thing today. So, okay. Yes, I see that hand.
Well, what's your name again?
You think you're in the wrong church. Okay. All right. As I said in the first session, this is fresh meat. It's not canned or frozen, and I have to update this thing about every other day because there's so much stuff going on. The words are shut up and sealed until the time of the end. The implication there is that when we get to the end of the time, these things will become much more clear. So, that's what's going on. Good morning. So, anyway, and I think we're beginning to see that as these words are really coming to pass. So let's get into chapter 13 now. And the dragon stood on the sand of the seashore. Then I saw a beast coming up out of the sea, having 10 horns and 7 heads, and on his horns were 10 diadems, and on his heads were blasphemous names. And the beast which I saw was like a leopard, and his feet were like those of a bear, and his mouth like the mouth of a lion. And the dragon gave him his power and his throne and great authority. Remember the heads are talking about different governments. And I saw one of his heads as if it had been slain, and its fatal wound was healed, and the whole earth was amazed and followed after the beast. They worshipped the dragon because he gave his authority to the beast, and they worshipped the beast, saying, "Who is like the beast, and who is able to wage war with him?" There was given to him a mouth speaking arrogant words and blasphemies, and authority to act for 42 months. We see this 42 months, 3.5 years, over and over again in Revelation. And he opened his mouth in blasphemies against God, to blaspheme his name and his tabernacle, that is, those who dwell in heaven. Here's some what I call blasphemy right out of the Quran, Surah 4, verse 171. Jesus is not the Son of God. The Messiah, Jesus, son of Mary, was only a messenger of Allah, and Allah is only one Allah. It is far removed from his transcendent majesty that he should have a son. Yeah, I consider that Jesus is the Son of God. The only begotten Son of God. It was also given to him to make war with the saints and to overcome them. In authority, every tribe and people and tongue and nation was given to him. All who dwell on the earth will worship him, everyone whose name has not been written from the foundation of the world in the book of life of the Lamb who has been slain. Then I saw another beast coming up out of the earth, and he had 2 horns like a lamb, and he spoke as a dragon. He exercises all the authority of the first beast in his presence, and he makes the earth and those who dwell in it to worship the first beast whose fatal wound was healed. I'm not here to try to explain everything here. I'm not your guru, right? A lot of this is subject to speculation, and I don't like to speculate. We've got something more firm coming up here. He performs great signs so that he even makes fire come down out of heaven to the earth in the presence of men. Now, could John have seen a laser beam? We have directed energy weapons now that are very high, powerful laser beams, can be aimed from a orbiting space satellite, and it could set things on fire with it. So, could John have seen a laser beam? Yes. How about that? It's poetry. I didn't realize that. Okay, so remember, John is reporting on the things that he sees. He doesn't have all the interpretation of what's going on, but this he saw. Okay, so he saw fire come down out of heaven. Could have seen that, right? The technology is here. And he deceives those who dwell on the earth because of the signs which was given to him to perform in the presence of the beast. telling those who dwell on the earth to make an image to the beast who had the wound of the sword and has come to life. I'll introduce you to the giant. There's a company in Ireland that's building these. They want to have 21 of them in cities around the world by the end of 2021. They may be running a little behind schedule. The cities like Berlin, Germany, Dubai, Singapore. Closest one to us would be Las Vegas. Another one planned for Phoenix. Okay. He's about 10 stories tall, and the arms move. Doesn't seem to have any elbows. Arms move. The head moves, and he can sing, he can speak, can't dance. He's tied down there. But that's what it is. And he's covered with millions of programmable LEDs, so he can take the form of Spider-Man or Albert Einstein, Serena Williams, anybody. Actually, they're planning on having a selfie booth. You can take a 360-degree picture of yourself and become the world's largest selfie for 1 hour. I expect it would cost at least $1,000 to do that. But that's in the works. It can become anybody. Anybody. So, and it was given to him to give breath to the image of the beast, so that the image of the beast would even speak and cause as many as do not worship the image of the beast to be killed. So if we have a world leader come on the scene who would like to say, I am God, worship me. The technology is here. Or at least it will be within the next few months. Okay? That's loads of fun. Once again, people have been wondering about this. How can you make an image come to life? Well, here it is. The technology is right here, right now. Okay? Now, Pope Benedict is praying for a one-world religion by 2030. He says we are all children of God. And well, actually, that's not true. 2030, remember that. In 2019, they had a human fraternity meeting there in Abu Dhabi to confirm this. And they're building this, it's 25% complete right now, this one world religion center in Abu Dhabi in the United Arab Republics. And that's what they have a building for Christianity, or at least Catholicism, and Islam and Judaism. And that's coming next year. They'll be done with it next year. So it's going to be one world religion. That's opening next year. Agenda 2030, that year again, 2030, from the United Nations. The United Nations calls for a one world government by 2030. Yeah. Isn't that an interesting date? Yeah. They call it the Great Reset. And for one thing, they talk about redistribution of wealth, beginning in 2023. Anybody have enough math skills here to subtract 2030, or 2030 minus 2023 is how many years? 7 years. Does that have a special significance? It might. I don't know, but it might. Now, these investment groups, BlackRock, Vanguard, and First Street, are buying up about $500 million worth of property every year. They right now own $20 trillion worth of homes, to be SFRs, single-family rentals. So that probably not too long in the future, it'll be very difficult for you to own your own home. The idea now is to buy a home, pay it off 15 years, then use the rest of the money to invest and live comfortably. But apparently they want you to be a slave for life. That's what it is. So the redistribution of wealth really means rob from the poor and give to the rich. You thought it was the other way around, didn't you? Well, it's not so. It's a trap, man. It's just a trap. They're going to make everybody slaves. The head of the Office of the Controller of the Currency, Sol Omarova, proposed that the Federal Reserve take over consumer bank deposits to, quote, effectively end banking as we know it. By the way, she was born in the Kazakh Soviet Socialist Republic, which, of course, is now more or less independent since the breakup of the Soviet Union. She was educated at the University of Moscow, and of course, she's a communist. So here's who we have in charge of our money. Now, Marie Strong, the former Undersecretary of the United Nations, says it is clear that current lifestyles and consumption patterns involving high meat intake, consumption of large amounts of frozen and convenience foods, ownership of motor vehicles, numerous electrical appliances, home and workplace air conditioning are not sustainable. It's clear that he's never lived in the desert. So he wants you to give up your meat, your car, your microwave blender, whatever, and your air conditioning. Yeah, right. I don't think we want to do that. Well, they have a solution for that, of course. Here's Klaus Schwab, founder of the World Economic Forum, who said a globalized world is best managed by a coalition of multinational corporations, governments, and select civil society organizations, or NGOs, non-governmental organizations. Anybody think of a multinational corporation? Coca-Cola? Apple? You can have a veritable litany of those. Civil society organizations, that would include the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, the Clinton Foundation, the Tides Foundation, which is run by billionaire George Soros, right? That's what they want running the whole world. So the goals of the World Economic Forum, this is just some of them. In 10 years, people will own nothing, and you'll be happy, or else. Goods are either free of charge or must be borrowed from the state. If you want a lawnmower, you got to borrow it. The United States will no longer be the leading superpower, but a handful of entities will dominate. Meat consumption will be minimized. You can get your 3 ounces of meat per week, whatever. A massive displacement of people will take place with billions of refugees. Basically, they want to move people out of their homes and put them somewhere else, put them in high rises in some city or whatever. Western civilization will be rejected. That's what they say. Basically, Judeo-Christian civilization will be abolished. Really. The United Nations warns the world has until 2030 to reduce global warming. There's that date again. Is that a coincidence? I don't know. Now, if some thug points a gun in your face and says your money or your life, that's probably not as bad as this. Give up your money and your freedom or everybody is going to die by 2030. We'll do what? I think we've entered the twilight zone. Imagine, if you will, a world where people believe that the temperature of the planet can be controlled by giving more money to the government. Are we in the twilight zone now? Yeah, well, I think I agree with Buzz Lightyear. There's no intelligent people anyway, any intelligent life anywhere. It's just, all right. Yeah, it's okay to laugh. I mean, what they're proposing is so ludicrous. It is really laughable, but we shouldn't laugh too long because the globalists believed that man-made global warming was conceived in 1967 to make humanity believe that the greatest enemy of humanity was humanity itself, and that the only way to save the planet would be to have mass global human depopulation. Eliminate 90% of the people on the planet. Tom Clancy wrote a novel about this some years ago called Rainbow Six. Fascinating read. He actually proposed a small group, less than 100, hyper-environmentalists release this virus on the world to kill off everybody but them so they can start all over again and do it right this time. It's, like I say, it's an interesting read. But the Bipartisan Commission on Biodefense is warning about the possibility of biological warfare. And does that have any relation to coronavirus? We hear this talk about gain of function. Dr. Anthony Fauci has mentioned that, and others. Gain, of course, is a technical term referring to an increase of something. And function tends to mean to me that they're talking about making something function more strongly or better than it was before. So is that bioengineered? Maybe. Some people think so. I don't know. I'm not saying one way or the other. The coronavirus disease, according to the United Nations, is upending our world, threatening our health, destroying economies, and deepening poverty and inequalities. So therefore, we have to do something about it. We have to have a one world government to take care of everybody. How about that? The French President, Macron, actually, mandates a special COVID-19 pass for access to all restaurants, shopping malls, etc. New York City Mayor Bill de Blasio mandated inoculations for a range of indoor venues, requiring proof of COVID vaccinations from employees and customers of indoor eateries, gyms, and entertainment centers. Enforcement began on that on Monday, September 13th. So, and he causes all, the small and the great, and the rich and the poor men and the slaves, to be given a mark on their right hand or on their forehead. This is, of course, an exaggeration. Nobody's going to go around with a barcode on their face. So, of course, it says on their right hand or on their forehead. I think King James or one other translation says in their right hand or forehead. But of course, that means that it would be invisible. A chip would be in the hand and not visible. Here's the device that you use to insert these chips. Could be estrogen or testosterone capsules or whatever. They have that right now. But the mark could be an invisible or visible sign that a person has received the chip or a vaccination or anything else they want. So we have facial recognition technology. So do you really need the mark on the forehead? They can just spot people. But here's another example of facial recognition technology. China's U2 Technologies created a facial recognition system called Dragonfly, which can search and analyze billions of photographs and locate a single person in a matter of seconds. It's already in place in Shanghai, which is a population of 33 million people, and in the past 3 months they've caught 500 criminals through using this technology. Of course, it depends on what you call a criminal. Over there, a Christian could be called a criminal. But wait a second, here's some news coming through right now. That was just, 3 weeks ago? China's central bank says all cryptocurrency-related activities are illegal, and they're going to crack down on that. So now only the yuan, as I pronounce it, it's not yuan, it's yuan, will be legal in China. But, they get rid of Bitcoin, and they're going to have a digital yuan by February. It's 3 months away? It's about less than 3 months away. They want it before the Beijing Winter Olympics. And so, the United States, not to be outdone, is planning their own digital coin called Fedcoin in cooperation with Massachusetts Institute of Technology. So Fedcoin is being embraced by progressives to make all Americans have just one universal basic income. Fedcoin can be programmed so that certain transactions can't take place. For example, if you're overweight, you can't buy candy or soda. Fedcoin can be programmed to prevent individuals' access to anything the government deems inappropriate. Now, if you're one of these people that are complaining at school board meetings about the critical race theory, the United States Attorney General has already said that the FBI should investigate you to see if you're a domestic terrorist. And that means that they would not be permitted to buy a gun or a lot of other things. Coincidentally, his son-in-law is the co-founder of a company that produces critical race theory curriculum for our schools. Interesting coincidence there. Okay, well, if you don't obey the government in everything, your Federal Reserve digital account can be depleted by the click of a mouse until you obey, or starve to death, whichever comes first. I mean, this is what they want. I'm not making this up. So no one will be able to buy or sell. That does not mean that you won't be permitted to buy or sell or allowed to buy or sell. I mean, it's not like you walk into a store and they say, okay, buddy, you don't have the mark, we're not going to sell you anything. You just won't be able to. You won't have the money in your digital account. See, our wonderful money that we have. Oh, I forgot to bring that up. These dollar bills and so on. Won't be worth anything, just like Confederate money after the Civil War. Okay, except the one who has the mark, the name of the beast, or the number of his name. Notice it says or, it's either or. And, oops, I went the wrong way. See, a specialized dye can be used to store information under the skin. So the mark may look like that, or maybe not. We're not sure. Now, here is wisdom. Let him who has understanding calculate the number of the beast, for the number is that of a man, and his number is 666. Now, this number represents the Aramaic letters which spell Nero Caesar, but since Nero died in AD 68, which was over 20 years before John wrote his prophecy, this can't be a prophecy about him. So, got to be something else. Now, there's a Christian by the name of Walid Shubat who was a Muslim terrorist in Lebanon, and he met the Lord. And so he was reading through the Greek New Testament, and he came across the Greek number 666, and he said, my goodness, it looks just like the Arabic expression for in the name of Allah. Oh, okay. How about that? So these people, if they had a mark on their forehead, you wouldn't be able to see it anyway, so they could put the mark on the right hand. So once again, is that the mark, or is it not? We don't know at this point. We will know pretty soon, I think. So Jesus said, when all these things begin to happen, look up, for your salvation is near. Amen. You've seen these ads on TV maybe, but because of the coming economic collapse, you should buy gold. Well, gold can't save you. Let's get the yell out of there. Only God can save you. You have to put your trust in God, not in gold. Because gold won't, you can't eat it. I remember, I think it was about 30 years ago, some guy called me up wanting me to invest in platinum futures for $5,000. I said, I'm sorry, but all my assets are liquid assets are tied up in hard commodities. He said, like what? I said, well, I have a bag of rice and a case of canned corn and beans in the pantry. And he said, well, okay. I hung up. So, all right, let's get on to chapter 14. Then I looked, and behold, the Lamb was standing on Mount Zion, and with him 144,000, having his name and the name of his Father written on their foreheads. And I heard a voice from heaven, like the sound of many waters, and like the sound of loud thunder. And the voice which I heard was like the sound of harpists playing on their harps. And I saw another angel flying in mid-heaven, having an eternal gospel to preach to those who live on the earth, and to every nation and tribe and tongue and people. And he said with a loud voice, remember everybody's talking with a loud voice in Revelation, fear God and give him glory, because the hour of his judgment has come. Worship him who made the heaven and the earth and the sea and springs of waters. And another angel, a second one, followed, saying, fallen, fallen is Babylon the Great, she who has made all the nations drink of the wine of the passion of her immorality. And another angel, a third one, followed them, saying with a loud voice, if anyone worships the beast and his image, and receives a mark on his forehead or on his hand, he also will drink of the wine of the wrath of God, which is mixed in full strength in the cup of his anger. And he will be tormented with fire and brimstone in the presence of the holy angels and in the presence of the Lamb. Now, some people seem to think that, if a Christian takes the mark, that's all right, he's still going to go to heaven. That's not what it says here. That's not what it says. And I looked, and behold, a white cloud, and sitting on the cloud was one like a son of man, having a golden crown on his head, and a sharp sickle in his hand. And another angel came out of the temple, crying out with a loud voice to him who sat on the cloud, put in your sickle and reap, for the hour to reap has come, because the harvest of the earth is ripe. Then he who sat on the cloud swung his sickle over the earth, and the earth was reaped. Okay, there's wrath coming up. We don't want to be here for that, that's for sure. Zephaniah 1:18 says, neither their silver nor their gold will be able to deliver them on the day of the Lord's wrath, and all the earth will be devoured in the fire of his jealousy, for he will make a complete end, indeed a terrifying one, of all the inhabitants of the earth. Okay, chapter 15, here we get into the wrath part. Then I saw another sign in heaven, great and marvelous, 7 angels who had 7 plagues, which are the last, because in them the wrath of God is finished. And I saw something like a sea of glass mixed with fire, and and those who had been victorious over the beast and his image and the number of his name, standing on the sea of glass, holding harps of God. And they sang the song of Moses, the bondservant of God, and the song of the Lamb, saying, Great and marvelous are your works, O Lord God, the Almighty. Righteous and true are your ways, King of the nations. And after these things I looked, and the temple of the tabernacle of testimony in heaven was opened. And the 7 angels who had the 7 plagues came out of the temple, clothed in linen, clean and bright, and girded around their chests with golden sashes. Sit here. Then one of the 4 living creatures gave to the 7 angels 7 golden bowls full of the wrath of God, who lives forever and ever. And the temple was filled with smoke from the glory of God and from his power, and no one was able to enter the temple until the 7 plagues of the 7 angels were finished. Okay, moving on to chapter 16. Then I heard a loud voice from the temple saying to the 7 angels, Go and pour out on the earth the 7 bowls of the wrath of God. So the first angel went and poured out his bowl on the earth, and it became a loathsome and malignant sore on the people who had the mark of the beast and who had worshipped his image. The second angel poured out his bowl into the sea, and it became blood like that of a dead man, and every living thing in the sea died. Obviously, this didn't happen in 70 AD. And the third angel poured out his bowl into the rivers and the springs of waters, and they became blood. The fourth angel poured out his bowl upon the sun, and it was given to it to scorch men with fire. Men were scorched with fierce heat, and they blasphemed the name of God who has the power over these plagues, and they did not repent so as to give him glory. Then the fifth angel poured out his bowl on the throne of the beast, and his kingdom became darkened, and they blasphemed the God of heaven because of their pains and their sores, and they did not repent of their deeds. The sixth angel poured out his bowl on the great river, the Euphrates, and its water was dried up so that the way could be prepared for the kings from the east. This is a satellite picture of the Euphrates Dam in Turkey. It doesn't have to be anything supernatural. All I have to do is close off the spillway to allow the kings of the east, as we mentioned before, to cross over and enter Israel. Kings of the east, of course, would probably be like Afghanistan, which is now the 4th largest amount of armaments in the world. Not the 4th largest army, they don't have that many people, but I'm sure people from Kazakhstan and Tajikistan, and of course the Uyghurs from Western China, which are all Muslim, would be glad to join with them. So up until 6 weeks ago, this would not have been possible. So things are happening pretty fast. And I saw coming out of the mouth of the dragon and out of the mouth of the beast and out of the mouth of the false prophet 3 unclean spirits like frogs. For they are spirits of demons performing signs which go out to the kings of the whole world to gather them together for the war of the great day of God, the Almighty. And they gathered them together to the place which in Hebrew is called Megiddo. And this is a picture of the valley of Megiddo in Israel. Pretty big place. Maybe bigger than the San Joaquin Valley, I don't know. Then the 7th angel poured out his bowl upon the air, and a loud voice came out of the temple from the throne saying, It is done. And there were flashes of lightning and sounds and peals of thunder. And there was a great earthquake, such as there had not been since man came to be upon the earth. So great an earthquake was it, and so mighty. The great city was split into 3 parts, and the cities of the nations fell. Babylon the Great was remembered before God to give her the cup of the wine of his fierce wrath. And every island fled away, and the mountains were not found. It's a big earthquake. And huge hailstones, about 100 pounds each, came down from heaven upon men. And men blasphemed God because of the plague of the hail, because its plague was extremely severe. You can imagine 100-pound hailstones. Yeah, that pound everything into the ground. In Matthew 24:12, Jesus said, Sin will be rampant everywhere, and the love of many will grow cold. That's from the New Living Translation. So don't let it happen to you. Don't let your love of the Lord grow cold. That would be a disaster for you. Remember, you are not a victim. You are a victor. Jesus said, "Behold, I give you the authority to trample on serpents and scorpions and over all the power of the enemy, and nothing shall by any means hurt you." You have that authority, and the power is given to you from Jesus. Now, the great American philosopher Spider-Man said, "With great power comes great responsibility, so be sure to use that power wisely." Finally, be strong in the Lord and in the strength of his might, Ephesians 6:10. So we need to go out and give him heaven. Okay? That's our job. Bring the gospel. Okay, next week we'll be wrapping up the book of Revelation with chapter 17 through 22. Talk about the new heavens and the new earth and all that groovy stuff. It's really going to be neat. So, okay, that's it for today. So go out and get a donut or something. Yeah, actually.